Welcome back on the News Hour debate tonight. I'm joined by Ram Jethmalani, top lawyer who's been one of the petitioners in the black money case, which has now reached the Supreme Court, and a date has been given for the next hearing, which is the 28th. Nevertheless, it is a big political issue. Black money in Swiss banks. Nobody knows how much it is. Somebody said it's 25 lakh crores. Somebody said it's 70,000 lakh crores. Abhishek Singhvi, senior Congress leader, Rajya Sabha member of Parliament, national spokesperson of the party, joining us on the show tonight. Also joining us, Decision 09 panelist Swapan Dasgupta. Now we are asking a straightforward question on the show tonight. Are the maths right even if the facts are wrong, or is it a pre-poll stunt by the BJP? Let me ask you, Ram Jethmalani, you say that you are not raising this for political reasons. It should be looked at beyond politics. Is it possible to do that?
Well, it is perfectly possible to do that for honest people. And those who do not accept this claim of mine that I am an honest person should at least bear in mind that I fought against a man like Atalji in Lucknow. So I have nothing to do with the BJP, and I hope people will remember that I am a UPA nominated member of the Rajya Sabha today. So, but I certainly speak for the people of India. The people of India are excited about this colossal, mind-boggling amount of nearly $1,500 billion. And everybody knows that if this money came to India, India would cease to be a poor country as we are labeled throughout the world today. And if this money were to be distributed amongst all the people of India equitably, every family in this country will suddenly become rich and India will become a debt-free country. Now, who is not excited about this? And if somebody talks about it, and somebody like me who is excited about getting this money back into India, if people attribute motives, I think they are mean, they are just dirty.
Mr. Jethmalani, your introductory comments there. Abhishek Singhvi, what is the line of the Congress party? First, you were in denial mode about it. Then you contradicted the estimates. Then you said P. Chidambaram has taken up the issue. Now you filed an affidavit even before the Supreme Court gave you notices on this. Now you appear to be too proactive about it. What is your line on this whole issue of black money?
Arnab, if you'll just give me a few seconds, you will find that the line of the Congress, as you put it, is most consistent, least rhetorical and least political. Number one, our allegations of ulterior motive, political timing and pure propaganda and dramabazi are restricted only to Mr. Advani and the BJP. Certainly a question will arise that for years and years pre-98, from 98 to 2004 when you were in power, and from 2004 to 2008, why was Mr. Advani and his party suffering from selective amnesia? Second, we have no problem as far as the merits of the issue are concerned. Of course it's a serious issue, and I am not attributing any motives to Mr. Jethmalani. I am saying that the political timing of this by the politicians was wrong, but having said that, the Prime Minister of India has risen to the challenge. We will initiate the process, but I must add a very important caveat. You cannot over-romanticize this notion. Mr. Jethmalani speaks as if we are in the realm of just getting this huge amount of money and distributing it to our villages. That is nothing but emotive romanticization and fantasization.
Why do you say that?
It's a good thing to do, but let me tell you, the main thing to do is to have nitty-gritty provisions which this government after June 16th, when we come back, after May 16th when we come back to power, will initiate, namely in the double taxation avoidance treaties, start having specific clauses which say that if we have a DTA with you, we will want transparency from your country's banks. Point one. Point two, a comprehensive multilateral treaty which will force all the signatories of that treaty to have this disclosure. That's talking sense, that's talking concrete steps. Otherwise, it's all in the air.
No, but you see,
no bank is willing to breach.
No, you would say it's in the air.
No bank is willing to easily breach.
No,
I'm sorry?
You would say it's in the air, but the fact is that I want to go to Swapan Dasgupta on this. The names of the Indian account holders in the LGT Bank, Liechtenstein, have been provided by the German government on the 18th of March this year. Swapan Dasgupta, let me get you on the debate. 2 points. First, what he said, Dr. Singhvi says, what did the BJP do all this while? Secondly, that it's rhetoric. Secondly, thirdly, he says there are procedures and there will be conventions which can be created after the next government is elected to look into this issue.
Look, Arnav, I think it's quite clear to everyone that this entire issue of banking secrecy is something which has really emerged over the past 12 months or so. And when Mr. Advani wrote to the Prime Minister, or was it the Finance Minister, last April, he first raised the issue. Secondly, when we talk about politicization, we should realize that of course it is a political issue, but then elections are meant for political issues to be raised. We must remember that it was the G20 decision which came out very sharply against banking secrecy, which came out against tax havens, which actually wanted to use these sort of monies as a way of fighting the global economic slowdown. So there is a larger global context which didn't certainly exist at the time when Atalji became Prime Minister, and I think Mr. Singhvi is quite aware of that. So having said this, it is a political issue because it's not merely a question of fiddling with one or two clauses of bills, which is of course very important, but an overall political will. And what is really surprising about this is that rather than go on with the issues and say that look, here is something where the entire country should be united, here is Mr. Rahul Gandhi, here is Mr. Chidambaram, here is the Prime Minister trying to find faults about saying, no, but why did you raise it in an election? But what else are you supposed to do in an election except raise issues? Okay. Are you going to have an election based on Arnab, which IPL team you support?
Arnab. No, I know you want to respond.
Arnab.
I know you want to respond.
Arnab. Yeah, Arnab, if my good friend Mr. Shopan Dasgupta thinks that there was no black money during Atalji's time, he'll need to do a lot of convincing to your viewers.
Totally.
It was there all along. Yes, let him accept that Mr. Advani and his party did suffer from selective amnesia.
No,
they can raise good things, they can raise good issues, but when they raise them right in the middle of a campaign,
but the
it
timing,
is a legitimate inference that they are doing it for emotive, ulterior motives.
you're going.
However, having said that, I personally believe that the figures are irrelevant. For example, I personally believe the figures may be much lower than this. But quite frankly, it doesn't matter if it's 1,500 billion or 100 billion. The fact that there are illegal money stashed away there is a known fact. And to my 2 points about the double taxation avoidance treaty and a multilateral treaty, you must add a very important third. It is not a question of international treaties and international Liechtenstein banks. It's a question of black money being generated here, which ultimately travels there.
Dr. Singhvi,
Dr. Singhvi, will you answer why you've been silent about the identity of the person whose name has been disclosed by a bank in Germany? Is it because he has certain political connections?
There is no question. I'm sorry, Mr. Dasgupta, there is no question of disclosure or silence. These are matters governed by official communication in the event that Mr. Chidambaram was to follow your misguided advice and disclose the names, he would have a big problem with the counterparts in Germany and elsewhere who have put him and the ministry and the government of India.
Gentlemen, I go to Mr. Jethmalani at that point. I go to Mr. Jethmalani because I heard him say there while you were both debating, I heard him say and nod furiously, and he said it's all irrelevant. What is irrelevant, you were saying, Mr. Jethmalani? Also, Mr. Jethmalani, since you say this is not political, tell me, Mr. Jethmalani, what is being hidden here? Political interests or corporate interests? Politicians' money or businessmen's money?
What is relevant is that the German government has got the names of people who are involved in this stashing away of money in these foreign banks, many of whom are Indians. The German government knows the names, they are willing to disclose them, and they have said that the governments have only to approach us and we are willing to give full particulars of these people. Now, I don't say that they are all congressmen. I am not saying that they don't belong to the BJP. Probably they belong to entire political spectrum. They probably belong to the entire industrial world of India. I mean, I am not suggesting anybody as the main culprit in this case, but the fact remains that if I were the minister at that time, I would just go to the Germans, fall at their feet and say, please give us the names so that I take action. Nothing of that kind has happened. And I am sorry to say that today the affidavit which has been filed, in that they have talked of something totally false and irrelevant.
What?
And it is so mean
What?
that they are talking about double taxation. There is no double taxation between that Hassan Ali, that criminal from Pune, who has got $8 billion worth transactions with this UBS bank. Look at what the Americans have been succeeded in doing. In 3 months, they have put a penalty of $850 million on this UBS bank. The bank has pleaded guilty and paid it. But in this country, this bank is being treated with kid gloves. We are giving them facilities for prolonging and for expanding their business in this country. Now please don't excite me. For God's sake, don't treat it as a question between politicians. All politicians may be involved in this country, but the investigation must go on, and that is why I have gone to the judicial authority of the country, because this investigation can only be carried on by an impartial agency like the Supreme Court of India.
Dr. Singhvi, answer the simple question there. Ram Jethmalani, you heard him say, eminent law, he's saying, I'm not doing it politically. He's saying, why this whole utmost aura of secrecy? I have with me a note which says in your 29-page affidavit, you've said the German government made available the information after persistent follow-up since February 2008 on condition of strict confidentiality of contents under the double taxation avoidance agreement. You are aware, Dr. Singhvi, that other countries like Great Britain, for example, Gordon Brown, under the pressure of his own people in a situation of economic crisis, is putting great pressure on Germany to reveal all the names. We don't seem to be so proactive. We seem to want to hide something. I'm not saying the BJP or the Congress, but the Indian government, what have they been doing?
Can I respond?
Yeah.
Arnav, can I respond? You
Please.
had long interventions of Mr. Jethmalani and your long question. Part of Mr. Jethmalani's queries and your comment have been answered by yourself. Number one, it's a sub judice matter. The Supreme Court is seized of it by Mr. Jethmalani, and it is now given a date in July. So let's not get very excited, because if we are doing such blunders, you have the Supreme Court to pull us up. Number two, the affidavit itself answers your query. The information released, completely contrary to what Mr. Swapan Dasgupta is saying, has been released upon pain of confidentiality. Now, between foreign countries and foreign institutions in India,
that's false.
If you get something on a condition, you cannot simply release it. However, the names that Mr. Jethmalani just mentioned of that Pune fellow and one other name have ultimately been mentioned by the government in the affidavit. It's not come from the air. It's been mentioned by the government. And how do you assume that when Mr. Advani wakes up after 10 years, a few weeks ago, how do you assume that like a black rabbit out of a magician's hat, we the government, the UPA government will pull out all the names and have all the money back within a few days?
Mr. Jethmalani seemed to disagree with you.
The Prime Minister said 100 days. The Prime Minister said 100 days.
Singhvi,
allow him to initiate.
Okay, Swapan Dasgupta, come in. Swapan Dasgupta, come in.
If Mr. Singhvi's objection was merely to the fact that Mr. Advani has suddenly been seized of the matter, it wouldn't have really mattered. What I think is far more important, and I think far more galling, is the manner in which there is a complete absence of political will and a refusal to acknowledge that India has really dragged its feet. Why even a tiny country like Ireland managed to get 1 billion euros from these tax havens? What has been India's track record in this? Can Mr. Singhvi answer? Can he answer the fact that had it not been for persistent prodding, whatever little has been done wouldn't have been done? Or would we have seen this entire issue take the course of the Quattrochi revelations?
No, but
you see, that is really the track record. I'm really aghast at why the Prime Minister and Mr. Rahul Gandhi should be in this complete denial mode.
No, but Mr. Dasgupta, but Mr. Dasgupta, having said that, also equally a question can be asked. Mr. Advani raises the question in February 2008 in the Parliament. He gets an answer in May 2008, if I am not mistaken. What was Mr. Advani doing between May 2008 and now?
You see, Mr. Advani can
I am
raise an
amazed,
issue. He can
Arnab.
raise it in the parliamentary procedure.
Okay.
He can also raise it in the political forum. And it's
Arnab.
completely legitimate to raise
Arnab.
such
No, no.
issues in the political
Not
forum.
legitimacy, but timing. Mr. Singhvi, I know you want to respond. I
No,
want to go to
timing
Mr.
is- what is-
Ram
what is
Jethmalani
it-
once
what
and
is
then
an
go back to
election
you.
about?
No, I want to go
What
to
is
Mr.
an
Ram
election
Jethmalani
about?
once and then
Understand.
go back to you. Mr. Jethmalani disagreed with your interpretation of confidentiality and he said something was mentioned in the petition. Yes, Mr. Jethmalani.
The confidentiality applies only to those transactions which involve the double taxation between Germany and Italy, in India. Now, there is no question of any double taxation here. These names of the culprits have been obtained by the German government by bribing one of the officials of that bank. The bank official has disclosed the names, and the German government, in its goodness and to maintain international purity,
Right.
have offered that any government which comes to us to want to know the names, we are willing to
No, but
disclose
Mr.
the names.
Jethmalani-
And will Mr. Singhvi deny that they have written to the Indian ambassador in Germany, please go slow on inquiring about these names, because the Germans might get irritated about the pressure which we are building upon them.
No, but Mr. Jethmalani, you don't think it's conceivable for the next government? Do you really accept Mr. Advani at face value when he says in 100 days, I will bring back all the money and distribute it? I mean, that's also political, isn't it, Mr.
Or
Jethmalani?
no, that is a commitment made by Mr. Manmohan Singh, who suddenly woke up.
Abhishek Manu Singhvi, respond.
I was amused in Mr. Swapan Das Gupta's outburst. He used two words. One word was track record. The other he used just now was woke up. I'd like you to first, how can a person ask that question defending the BJP and Mr. Advani, whose track record is zero? They did nothing at all. Nothing at all, not one jot, not one paisa back.
But that's not
And
the point,
black
is it?
money in Swiss accounts was invented. Let me complete now. Black money in Swiss accounts appears to be invented only in the last 1 year. Number two, at least this government has, on the specific disclosure of Mr. Chidambaram, over the last year taken concrete steps. We've got some information. There may be a difference of view about confidentiality, but we've done something in 1 year. I want to ask Mr. Satan Das Gupta that the party represents, what have they done? Number three, this Prime Minister has officially gone on record, officially, that in 100 days he will initiate. What did Mr. Advani and the BJP do? What about waking up? They are still sleeping. They only woke up when in the middle of last week's campaign, somebody thought of some votes.
Okay. I don't know if Mr. Dasgupta wants to respond, but I do know that this debate will... You want to give a quick...
Well, only thing I want to say, Arnab, is that if Mr. Singhvi is completely unmindful of the complete change in global conditions which has allowed these sort of questions to be raised, and why the G20 in its communique, which the Prime Minister attended only a few weeks ago, had the abandonment of this banking secrecy as one of its major items. After all that, I fail to see why the Prime Minister still wants to be in denial, why he
Okay.
wants to make Advani the issue rather
I
than
want
the
to say
issue
something,
of
Arnab.
illegal money.
This-
And I think there is a,
Arnab.
as they say, dal mein kuch kala hai.
The Dal...
Arnab,
Yes.
it's amusing that black money in foreign bank accounts by Indians is discovered by the BJP, their supporters and Mr. Advani only in the last year, only when the G20 raises it.
Yes.
Did they have to wait for the G20 to raise it?
Wait, but one thing
And
I must
after
say...
the G20, mind you,
No.
after G20, Mr. Advani forgot about it from May 08 to April 09.
No, but while this
He
question
forgot
can
about
be
it.
asked... No, while
In
that
April
question...
09, that he suddenly woke up.
No, but while that question can
Even
be asked...
from May 08
The
to April
G20 was
09.
held
No,
a few
while
weeks
that,
ago.
while that
Mr.
question, while that
Singhvi,
question,
the
gentlemen,
G20 was held a few weeks ago.
gentlemen, while that question can be asked, I must say this in conclusion to, I'm sure both Mr. Jethmalani, Mr. Swapan Das Gupta and Abhishek Manu Singhvi will agree with me on this one, that while the question can be asked, why now? The question which should really be asked is why not? Without doubt, if everyone agrees money is
That's
being
absolutely
stashed
why, I
abroad,
agree.
the question should be why not why now.
I agree.
Perhaps that's also the
Absolutely.
question.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, on that I'm sure I get agreement.
I
I get
agree
agreement
totally.
from you, Mr. Jethmalani, I'm sure.
Of course I do.
I started by
agree.
saying that.
Yeah. The question India must ask is not why now, the question should be why not, and then take this issue beyond politics and deal with it, whether before an election or after an election. For that excellent debate, Abhishek Manu Singhvi, Ram Jethmalani and Swapan Das Gupta, thank you very much. We're coming back on the other side with Kamal Nath on whether he thinks the Congress can call the left's bluff.
This show